have to do it exactly how she was doing it, but I know how to get from A to Z because I've been watching, I've been listening, and I've been learning. So I would, if I had a question, I would tap my recruiter friends in the back shoulder and say, "Hey, I'm doing this. Does this make sense?" And they would say, "Oh yeah, do it this way. Oh, but don't forget about this." And I would go to the CEO and say, "Know that, we have this gap right now, and I've done this and I've done that." And she was like, "Oh, you did that already?" Yes, absolutely. What else can I do to help out? So remembering not just the opportunity for you to step in somewhere, but don't forget about what you bring to the table. Like you said, no one's going to hand it to you, but don't forget about already what you already have. You may not have that HR title. That's okay. You don't always necessarily have to in that moment.
100%. And the final piece to this is you were a receptionist. You could have been an office manager. That's not necessarily HR. But
Mhm.
I think those are the best roles, actually, fundamentally and foundationally, to start in HR, where you get to see a bit of recruiting, you get a bit to see a bit of onboarding, and you learn a lot more about HR because of the payroll and the benefits and all the things that you have to do to help administer behind the scenes. So if you're trying to break into HR, you can do it by looking for receptionist roles, by
Mhm.
looking for office manager roles, by
Mhm.
looking for EA roles, by
Mhm.
looking for recruiting coordinator roles.
Yep.
Those actually are really great roles. And you think, well, that's not HR. Don't worry. That generalist role is what gets most people that I know in the door. And so nothing against
Yeah.
receptionists, but
Coordinator, project, I mean, even project management type of roles. You know what I mean? You can quickly make that transition over because a lot of what we do, Brian, has a lot to do with project management. Yeah.
it's a lot of babysitting and managing.
Yes.
And it's not just where you start, but I don't want people to limit themselves on, I have to have an HR BP role. Like you have to work your way through that, but you have to have this general and broad experience to know how payroll feeds in with benefits, how the recruiting feeds into the onboarding, how the HR tool you're using feeds into performance reviews. You have to see all of it because it's like with anything else. There's
Yeah.
pieces that you have to learn brick by brick. First of all, you took the receptionist role, turned it into something. But the second piece of this was you were hungry. You asked questions and you learned on your own. You attached yourself to people that were doing it. And I know, I think there's Sherm. I think I said I met one person that's gone to school for HR. Otherwise, it's go find the people that are doing the job and attach yourself at the hip to them
Yeah.
and learn and ask questions. And now at
Ask questions.
ChatGPT, you can be an expert more than the people that are doing it. So take the hunger that Naz had and work your way into it. You absolutely can do
Yeah.
that anyway.
And the other thing that I'd say to add to it, for me, it wasn't just about learning the fundamental pieces of HR, right? And the principles and all of that. It's your relationships. You're building relationships. That's a huge part of what we do,
Yes.
right? How are you building those relationships and how are you feeding those relationships? So it's not it's that too, and you're developing your influencing skills, which is huge.
And the relationship building is not just about the company that you're currently at, especially if you are younger. We have a few decades and a couple of these kids
Yeah.
coming out of high school and college, fine. But the people you are working with now, and even for us, the people that we're working with now will end up being some people that we might support 5, 10 years later, or
Yeah.
we need a connection on LinkedIn,
Yep.
or they moved up in their company and they're looking for their next late HR person. So it's not just the relationships internally, which you need to have. So people will be like, absolutely, come watch how I do this thing.
Yeah.
But you are setting yourself up for, especially people that want to be HR business partners. It is all about relationships and
Yes.
building trust. And so don't just look at the right now and not understand that the things you are doing right now absolutely will pay off 5, 10, 15, 20 years later.
Yep.
Speaking of 15, 20 years later, for you, you've been doing HR forever. What keeps you energized now? Why are you still in HR and haven't made a pivot somewhere else?
Because every day is different. I don't have one day that's the same as another day. And for me, it's all about the things we just talked about. It's about building relationships. It's about being lockstep with the business. It's about understanding what the business is doing. So it's not just HR every day. You're not speaking, eating, breathing HR every day. One of the things that I think makes you really successful as an HR person is you understand what the business is doing. How are you translating those business objectives, goals, whatever you want to call them, into what you're going to do, like from a HR strategy perspective? How is that translation happening? So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's just that knowing that I'm that left arm or the right arm, whichever way you want to go, to my business leader, right? They're going to, how I measure success, they're going to come to me and be like, hey, Nas, you got 10 minutes? Let's talk about this. I'm thinking about this. That for me is success. That's a trusted advisor.
To your point about how being a trusted advisor and really helping with strategy on the business, I think people, especially when I was younger and early in my career, it was like, I'm here just for a job. The
Yeah.
stuff that I'm doing does not connect to anything. It doesn't matter. The old higher up people, they're talking goals and OKRs and revenue and all these boring words. That doesn't matter to me. And the reason why it matters is if you actually start learning the business, because it sounds like all these terms and strategic and tactical, and everybody's using all the buzzwords. And
Yeah.
I think it turns off a lot of earlier career, younger people in their career journey. Is you hear all these buzzwords and you're not quite sure what they mean, and it just sounds boring. But to your point of now, when you're in, especially as a HR business partner or HR leader, you have your hands in so many different things. So it's not just these boring catchphrases. It's imagine you had your own business and you were trying to make it be a $1 billion business.
Yeah.
What are all the ways that you can help make more money, keep more money, find more customers? That's what we do in HRs. We
Yeah.
are actually helping our people earn more money, keep more money, find more customers. So the more people on this planet can actually hear about what you're doing or what you're selling. If you think about it as you're your own CEO, I
Yeah.
think then for me, when I started kind of pivoting on how I think about how I show up to work, as if I was a CEO, how I can make more of an impact, in HR, you can literally put your hands in all of it, even if you're not the product person or the marketing person or the salesperson, but you can hire the person. You can learn about the revenue to figure out how a performance review structure or how other parts of the business and programs that you run affect every place else. You literally have the ability to be a part of all that. And so I'm happy that you say you're still energized. And I totally agree with it. I just want to connect the dots of just because we've been doing this for a long time and it becomes more fun the longer you do it, but you can have that fun early on if you actually
Yeah.
show that curiosity as well. So
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
really good
And
one.
that curiosity is huge.
Yeah.
It sets you apart.
And people want to, they get drawn to, "Oh, she's curious. She showed up with, maybe she wasn't completely right with what she was saying, but showed up with some research and really wants it." And all of us, I've had a bunch of people reach out to Mentor. We all actually do want to help the
Yeah,
generations that are coming after us. We really do want to
absolutely.
help the people that are curious. And it doesn't even have to be, you don't have to be a 22-year-old kid for me to want to help you. If you're 65 and you're like, look, I'm looking to make a pivot, I'm curious. I watched your podcast or I did some digging here. Wow, you really want to do this? How can I help? And so your career really speaks to that. If you can wave a magic wand and go back to your earlier days in your career when you first started out,
Yeah.
would you have gone to school